You're listening to eCommerce Fastlane, the podcast show to help you build, manage, grow, and scale a successful and thriving company, powered by Shopify. Listen to real conversations with partners and subject matter experts as they share proven practical strategies, platforms, and the best Shopify apps to help you accelerate your business. The time is now for you to improve efficiencies, grow revenue, profit, and lifetime customer loyalty. Please welcome your host, startup founder, and strategic advisor, Steve Hutt.
Well, hey there. Welcome back to eCommerce Fastlane. I am your host, Steve Hutt. Now, today we're going to dive deep into the evolving world of, I'm going to call it like e-commerce SEO and kind of what it really takes to drive organic traffic today in 2025. I'm joined by Jeff Oxford. He's the founder and CEO and director of a company called 180 Marketing, and they're at 180marketing.com, and they're an e-commerce focused SEO agency. They've been helping online retailers really to increase revenue for more than a decade. And Jeff's just not talking theory here. He's managed over 300 kind of e-commerce SEO campaigns over his career, maybe more. But actually, what's interesting about that is that he himself has his own drop shipping store. So he's actually know what it takes to actually grow a business. So he's actually eating his own dog food, not just kind of theory. I know in 2024 alone, 83% of this, I did some research for recording today, but of the clients, 83% of these 180 marketing clients, they say they had a very positive ROI with an average return of more than 874%. So it's a huge number. Clearly, organic traffic is very interesting, and a lot of people like that idea. It's typically the highest ROI of any kind of marketing strategy long term. But what's interesting, though, I think in today's landscape is kind of what's actually going on right now with these AI-powered search engines. You think about ChatGPT, even I'm noticing a lot of traffic coming to me now through ChatGPT, Google's Gemini, there's Perplexity, even Anthropic now is doing their thing. I really, hopefully we're going to dig into that today too and talk about this new concept called GEO, this generative engine optimization. But I want to be more specific around the Shopify merchants because that's who's actually listening today. There's a lot of opportunities, but I think there's a lot of challenges too. And so, hi, Jeff, welcome to the show.
Steve, thanks so much for having me, and thank you for the very kind intro.
Yeah, it's lovely. You know, you're really doing a fantastic service to a lot of incredible brands out there. I kind of creeped on your LinkedIn profile. I'm on your website live right now. Clearly, you know, I think that's what, you know, makes an agency partner very unique, where you're not wide. You're very narrowly focused on kind of like what the job is to be done right now, and that is to drive organic traffic. It's adding a little bit of extra flavor, though, as of late now with Google's kind of AI overviews. Now people, you know, going directly to Perplexity on Gemini and ChatGPT directly now and getting some ideas of research and some recommendations and stuff like that. So can you talk about maybe, because you've been involved in this industry a while, can you talk just the evolving landscape, kind of where e-commerce SEO used to be, and then what's been happening from your perspective over the last few months, at least for the last year or so?
Yeah, it's a great question. And how I always like to approach it is Google's goal has always been the same. They're always wanting to rank the best content, the best pages that provide the best user experience. That way people keep using Google. The only thing that has changed over the years is Google's getting better at accomplishing that goal. So I see, I know we were talking before this, you've been in this industry for a long, long time. You probably remember the old days where you could manipulate Google with, you know, white text on a white background, and you could just submit your site to 600 directories, and you could do all these things and rank number one. And then people started abusing it, so they improved their link algorithms, and then people started abusing that. And so it's kind of this cat and mouse game, but Google's goal has always been the same, and it's just to rank the pages that have the best experience. So what that looks like in 2025 is you see pages rank better, that have better user experience, that do a better job of answering the query, whatever someone's searching for. You see in the e-commerce world, you see product pages and category pages ranking that have good selection, that their prices aren't too expensive. And Google's relying a lot more on, you know, what's the bounce rate of the page? What's the time on site for this website? Are people hitting the back button, clicking on a competitor, or are they staying on page one? And kind of an oversimplification of SEO is all the stuff you hear about with, title tags and meta descriptions and backlinks and internal linking. That will get you to the front page of Google, But to stay on the front page and move to the top 3 positions, that's going to be almost more heavily influenced on clicks and engagement metrics.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've noticed too that a lot of businesses now, I think, through some basic apps that are available in the App Store right now, and I think even with some AI-powered apps now to help with the PDP page and kind of product details, thinking like the title and description and the metadata and things like that. I guess we should talk about maybe some of the basic framework, I call it even table stakes, of kind of like where are most businesses today as far as being able to get some of the basic on-page things done first. Let's talk about that first and kind of what you're recommending people and brands to do to make sure they are kind of like on-page compliant.
Yeah, well, let's talk about the basics, and I break this down to the 4 buckets of SEO. You got technical SEO, that's all the fancy technical jargon that people hate talking about, like title. You got the robots.txt, sitemap.xml, structured data, all those things that will make you go to sleep. Luckily, most people are on Shopify. Shopify has massive market share. Shopify pretty much covers a lot of the technical SEO issues we see. Now, if we were having this podcast 10 or 15 years ago, when most people are on Magento or Volution or Yahoo stores, all these old platforms, it'd be an entirely different conversation. We'd probably have to focus more on that because the platforms at the time just weren't very SEO friendly. But if you're on Shopify, honestly, in most cases, technical SEO is most likely an afterthought, and you don't need to go too much into it. It's pretty good out of the box. So that's the first bucket. The other 3 is going to be content, page optimization, and link building. So content, it's pretty straightforward. If you have a collection page or a category page, you want to have at least 200 to 300 words of content on that page. Just having your products listed typically won't be enough to rank as high as you want, especially if you're competing with stores that have been around for a while, have more brand recognition. You need every tool in your tool belt to outrank some of the competitors. So just having a few hundred words of content describing your products, the benefits, the materials, who they're for, how they're used, like almost like a mini buyer's guide on your collection pages can go a really long way in helping you rank better. As far as blog content goes, I think it's kind of overhyped a bit. People say, oh, you have to have fresh content, you have to do this, you have to do that. Like, yeah, for some industries, there's definitely going to be a place for it, and there's going to be good topics that have high search volume and can actually convert and drive traffic and revenue. But having looked at hundreds of analytics accounts over the years, blog traffic usually convert at like 0.1%. So it's a lot of effort for minimal returns when your category pages, if you can get those to rank top 3 positions, you're really going to get a solid ROI. So for content, make sure your category pages have at least 200, 300 words. And then lastly is page optimization. This is probably what you're talking about with the basics, is we want to have the keyword in the page title, the meta description, the header tag. And for those listening, if you're not sure what these terms mean, if you search a keyword in Google, that blue link, that's the title of the page. It's a very powerful ranking factor. Google looks at it and relies on it to see what's the page about. So you want to have your keyword intact. If I'm trying to rank for protein powder, I want to have the term protein powder at the very beginning of that title. And I want also having the meta description, which is those 2 lines of black text that appear right below the title tag. Meta descriptions is not a ranking factor. It's more of like ad copy for SEO. So if you guys have run Google ads, you might have seen having a really well-written ad copy can have a huge impact on click-through rates and traffic. Well, the same applies for SEO. We want to have something in there that's compelling, that's going to incentivize people to click on us versus our competitors. So if you get your keyword in the title tag, your meta description, and you have some content, that's basically the basics, and you don't have to worry about all this fancy schmancy technical SEO side of things.
I find too, some brands that do produce kind of blog content, let's say, for example, sometimes they think of it more as a brand building exercise, a little bit like building a community around, maybe not trying to sell the products directly, but overall just like almost like a keyword cluster or a cloud of different types of concepts and topics. People are selling running shoes. Would there be a compelling reason to want to talk about trail running and being very specific in certain areas if you travel in here, or, hey, the CEO has gone to this location and yes, he's wearing our shoes. He's the CEO of the company, but oh, and by the way, here's some things you might want to think about from a health perspective, or other matching apparel from other brands and giving shout outs and things like that. What's your concept or thought around about brand building process around content. I know you're saying that maybe the conversion rate isn't directly attributed sometimes to that, but what's the long play about building content and brand ideas?
It's, if you can get to the point where you have content, you have an active community that they're excited, they're waiting for your next blog post, that is an amazing place to be, and that can drive lots of revenue. But I think it's almost like a winner take all type game. I mean, you got so many, like if we stick with running, you probably have so many different e-commerce sites selling, running apparel, running shoes, running accessories, all these things. They all want to have this community. But I mean, even if you take the industry leaders like, Nike, Adidas, how many people are like actively waiting for the next Nike blog post, the next Adidas blog post? It's so competitive, and it's almost like a winner take all type ecosystem that it would take a lot of effort to get to that point, and it's just very high risk. So yes, there's probably a few brands that are just killing it, great blog, their blog presence is connected to their social media presence, but it's just so much work to get there that I'd probably advise against it, just for the fact that you could do all the work to try to get there and still not kind of have this community feel, and that time and energy and resources could have been better spent on other activities.
I see. Okay, fair enough. All right, so we have these 4 buckets. So technical SEO, there's the content side of the business, page optimization, and then the last one was the link building. Can you talk a little bit about, is that necessarily a marketing strategy that someone needs to execute either through your agency or on their own, or do links just sometimes magically just show up because they're a great business and a great brand?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I would say, if you already are an established brand, if you already have some keyword rankings, you'll probably, and some website traffic, you're probably going to gain some links naturally. Maybe there's a journalist, or maybe there's a blogger talking about the best running shoes, and you just, you were ranking well for running shoes, they found your product, and they're going to link to you. So it's kind of like this chicken and the egg thing, where if you already have decent rankings and website traffic, you'll naturally pick up more backlinks. But if you're starting out and you don't have that yet, you kind of have to get the snowball rolling a little bit, manually going out and building these backlinks. And that can be done doing things like content marketing, where you just create really insightful and interesting blog posts and promoting them. I will say that 90%, probably 99% of blog posts just aren't going to attract backlinks, but there's a few angles you can do that I found are really effective in getting backlinks. One is creating a page that rounds up some statistics in your industry. So it could be like running statistics, or like which states have the most runners, or like, maybe look at like running injuries and statistics there and recovery times. Like anytime you can have data that a journalist or a blogger could cite in an article, that's one of the easiest ways to get backlinks with content marketing. Yeah, so that's number one. Another one that works really well is just product reviews. I mean, we're all e-commerce businesses here. We have products. I always like strategies where it's not like just getting the backlink, that there's also like a chance for referral traffic or brand awareness. So you can find some running blogs. You could send them your running shoes. You could have them review it, take photos of it, write about it. So not only would you get a backlink that's going to help your SEO rankings, but it can also have a positive impact on your brand awareness and referral traffic. So those are just kind of 2 examples of strategies you can use to get backlinks.
So someone that's so deep into SEO, there's always been a thought about, brands implementing kind of an organic kind of social media strategy. It seems pretty common. I mean, at least some of the drops and stuff, and then getting influencers involved and brand ambassadors. And they seem to be sharing a lot of their content out there. And maybe, in exchange for people, clicking link in bio, or being able to buy right from within solutions. Is there potentially an SEO benefit in showing up in social, if it's paid or organic? Or is this potentially a signal that Google and or these AI overview, these engines, are they picking up something that the brand is being found online?
See, that is a great question. I don't know if I've ever been asked that one before,
Okay.
and I'm excited to answer it.
All
So
right.
what I would say is, at the simplest level, you have social media posts that are linking to products and linking to brands. We just talked about how important link building is. However, links from social media platforms typically are not counted towards SEO rankings. By default, a lot of them have what's called a no follow HTML tag, which means Google's not going to follow it. It's not going to pass any SEO juice there. But there is an indirect factor. So if you're running, let's say you're spending tens of thousands a month on Facebook ads. Let's say you have a really strong social media presence on just organically. Let's say you have a YouTube channel and people love your videos, and maybe you're partnering with influencers on TikTok and Instagram, and they're talking about your products. What this is going to do, it's going to increase your branded search volume. There's going to be more people, like if your business is called, Super Running Shoes, you're going to have more people going to Google and typing in Super Running Shoes. And that's a pretty strong signal that this is a real brand. I mean, Google wants to reward real brands. And by people going to Google searching your brand name, that's a strong ranking signal. You're going to rank better. What the mechanism on how that actually works, no one's quite sure. But what we do know from Google's algorithm leak, as well as some court documents involving Google's lawsuits, we know that Google has a very powerful ranking factor that looks at the click-through rate in your search results. So if someone searches running shoes and you see Nike there, and everyone's like, "Oh, I know Nike. I trust Nike." That Nike position is going to get clicked more often. And if you get clicked more often than your expected click-through rate, Google's going to rank you up very fast. In fact, there's been some demos of this. Rand Fishkin, who's kind of the godfather of SEO, he would do experiments where he would go speak at a conference in front of 1,000 or a few thousand people. At the beginning of the conference, he said, "Okay, everyone take up your phone. We're going to search running shoes, and we're going to click on this site that's listed position 12. And everyone brings out their phone, they do it, they click it. So this is getting a very high click-through rate. And by the end of the session, an hour later, that site would almost always be ranking like number 4 or number 5.
Oh man, that's a great case study.
Yeah, so that's the power of this click-through rate. And
yeah,
if you're a well-known brand, people are going to trust you more, and they're going to click on you versus the competitors, which is going to hit on that click-through rate ranking factor that we just talked about.
So that comes back to the same thing again about this, one of your 4 buckets here about, page optimization. It's just like, well, so it's important to make sure that if that's what people are seeing in organic search, like how are we motivating people to want to click? Like where's the FOMO? Where's the call to action that's not generically keyword stuffed, but like that sounds like a whole science and an art form in itself.
Yeah, and that's, if people are running Google ads, what I always say is look at your top performing Google ads on Google search, see what unique selling points get the highest click-through rates, what calls to action get the highest click-through rates, and incorporate those elements into your meta descriptions for SEO. That's going to really help with you have all this data, might as well use it. You can get a higher click-through rate, more traffic, and better rankings.
Right. All right, I want to kind of pivot a bit to this, I guess, the elephant in the room a little bit now, because now with, the narrative is now that with generative AI, they call it this AI overviews, and some people not using Google necessarily as the starting point for search because they feel, and slowly people are learning the research component that's built into a lot of these tools now to help you find the best whatever it is you're looking for. And so the research is done, and then now there's even kind of links that are showing up now in AI overviews or within ChatGPT or Perplexity or whatever, Gemini. And so I know this is probably a whole topic and podcast alone around this, but on a high level, like what are you seeing right now? And are there ways for a brand to be an early adopter to somehow come up in these AI overviews or these AI tools that are out there so that their products can show up? Like, I guess the trick is that like why are these tools choosing some products over another? Like, it's a little bit complex, and it seems that maybe only some of the biggest brands are the ones that are kind of showing up. But then, how do you get your products to show up?
So there was a great study that looked into this just 6 months ago. And what this study did is they analyzed 300,000 keywords and search results to better understand these AI overviews. And what they found was pretty interesting. 99% of the time, the keywords that trigger these AI overviews were informational keywords. It's like, what are running shoes, or how to clean your running shoes, or how to maintain running shoes. When you go into more middle of the funnel or bottom of the funnel keywords, like if you search best running shoes, there's no AI overviews. If you search blue running shoes, there's no AI overviews. So if you're in e-commerce, we're really not seeing AI overviews being triggered for what we call transactional keywords, where someone's looking to make a transaction and purchase something. So in short, AI overviews have kind of killed off a lot of informational content, a lot of blogs. The part of the study, they found that if an AI overview was present on the search results, the number of clicks that happened on that search results dropped off by about 34%. So just these AI overviews is just killing the amount of traffic that Google's sending, because people don't need to read your article anymore. Google's going to summarize not just your article, but a bunch of other articles and answer the question, so they don't have to click anywhere. And that's why we're seeing the drop off.
Just one little thing I want to add to that. So is that what it's called, like zero clicks or zero click keywords, meaning that like someone has typed an informational question into Google, has kind of rounded up their idea, what they believe the answer is to that. It's showing it in the AI overviews, and then that's the end of that query.
That's exactly it. It's, the keyword could get high search volume. It could have thousands upon thousands of people searching it every month. But if Google does a good job of answering that query right there at the top of the search results, there's no need for anyone to click on any of the listings. So there'll be zero clicks. And to your point, a zero click search result.
That's scary. So then let's talk about how to become viewable in there, because, and the reason I'm asking this is because, I know there's been some recent announcements with Shopify has created some partnerships, certainly with OpenAI, and that's the ChatGPT side. I'm sure there's, ongoing dialogue about how Perplexity is going to be connected to Shopify. What are you seeing on the ground right now about, like, can brands be doing something today to more than likely allow them to start getting shown in these overviews?
So that is a very good question. And I'd say the biggest rollout that impacted e-commerce stores is late April. ChatGPT had this new feature where they're now going to have product carousels in chat. And these are going to trigger for keywords like best running shoes, best protein powders, best gaming laptops. Anytime someone's searching for using ChatGPT and they have a prompt where they're looking to buy a product, in most cases, it's going to trigger this new shopping integration where they'll actually have a product carousel. Not only that, but they'll have buy now links that will take you directly to that product. And I'm going to share some data with you. See if I can find it real quick. We just looked into this for our clients. So we had a sample for this particular study of 53 e-commerce sites that we have analytics access to and that we work with. And on average, just in May versus April, the amount of referrals from ChatGPT increased over 100%. It's 113%. So from this integration, we are seeing massive referrals and sometimes even direct sales from ChatGPT. And it's growing every single month these past 3 months. So it's something I'm keeping an eye on. And I recommend anyone listening to this, if you have analytics, as painful as it is to use, there's a way you can look at your referral data. You can see how much referral ChatGPT is sending you. And I think you might be shocked. But for all of our clients, we're just seeing this steady trend increasing without it plateauing yet. So a lot of opportunity there.
Yeah, it's interesting too. I just went into ChatGPT right now and I typed in like a pretty detailed kind of like query. Like I said, I'm looking for the best iPhone 16 Pro Max case. And then it came up with some interesting answers in here. They talk about like rugged protection. They're talking about the OtterBox, and they gave another one, and they're giving a direct link to the product, or everyday use in a slim design. They talked about Apple silicone cases, or Peak Design, which is a very high end kind of a brand, or stylish and premium options. Here's the Casetify or the Spec, or here's the budget friendly choices. And then they have a lot of images and stuff below, and here's some top picks, and they have some blog posts and things like that underneath it. So it's quite interesting because it said, considering your specific needs, whether it's a rugged protection, daily use, stylish, or budget, above will have, some ideas that, whatever. And so very interesting of kind of like, I guess that's the thought in my mind is like, how does a brand get noticed and being linked here?
So, and just to make sure, Steve, what you're seeing, is it triggering that product carousel that I was describing?
The product carousel is down lower, yes.
Okay. Yep. So Shopify and OpenAI have a partnership just like you described. And just from being on Shopify, your products are already eligible to show up. And I know this because, a friend of mine who runs an e-commerce store, he has this main Shopify site, and then he has like a hidden a Shopify site that's just for suppliers. It's not even really indexable. You can't even get to it. But because it exists, some of his products from this hidden, supplier site were getting picked up in ChatGPT. So if you're on Shopify, you don't have to do anything. Your products are already eligible to show up. But being eligible is not enough. We want to actually show up, and we want to rank at the top. And what's cool, and Steve, you might see this, if you scroll all the way to the bottom, there should be a link for sources. And this is going to show you all the places where Shopify pulled data from. And what we found here, which was very fascinating, so we did some internal testing. We wanted to see, is there any correlation between these sources and getting selected as one of these products? And what we found, I'm just pulling my stats here, we found if you're familiar with statistics, you have correlation. If something has a correlation of 1, it's perfectly correlated. If something has a correlation of 0, it's no correlation. The number of product roundups you're cited in, so maybe there's an article of like best iPhone cases or top 10 iPhone cases, these types of product roundups, there was 0.45 correlation, which means that it's, for reference, that's a very highly correlated thing. Domain authority is only 0.13. So this is 3 times more powerful than, domain rating and higher correlated. And so if you want to know, like, how do I get my products selected? Well, the answer is you want to get your products featured in as many of those product roundups as possible.
Wow. That's amazing. I'm on page 2 of notes right now. I think this is so important for brands, merchants to kind of understand this sort of thing. I also wrote down a thing about Perplexity too, because I think it's another interesting growing platform, and you can select, your large language model, if you're using OpenAI or if you're using Anthropic's Claude or whatever you're using. But it's interesting because Shopify has had, I guess now you're able to buy physically now from within Perplexity. And I think it's so interesting that you can automatically come up if you're looking for something, and you don't have, because I think that's the I guess the negative side of some of these AI overviews and things like that is you have to, you see the product, if it's a carousel, whatever, and you're clicking through and going somewhere else, either to a third-party site to see the review, to then have another click through to buy, or you're buying on Amazon or wherever. But it's interesting that Perplexity and Shopify have decided, okay, well, how about we allow people to buy right from within Perplexity, once again, syncing the product catalog over to Perplexity. It's quite interesting.
What I find most fascinating about this new adoption is they're almost flattening I'm sure you've heard of like the buyer's journey. You have the awareness stage, you have the research stage, and the purchase stage. And there's kind of different permutations to this, but they're flattening the middle and the bottom of the funnel. Before, you would search, what's the best rugged iPhone 16 case, and you'd read some articles, maybe watch some YouTube videos, maybe you go on Reddit, maybe you have a research process. Well, that research process is pretty much getting eliminated or simplified to now ChatGPT is doing the research for you and presenting you with these options. And now you're going straight to buy. So this, what might take a few days and a few hours or whatever it might be, it's been kind of squished down to this one step within ChatGPT. And soon I would imagine we start to see this more in Gemini and their AI mode. So yeah, it's kind of shortening the buyer's journey a bit. And, the research stage and the purchase stage are just one after another right now.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. I want to talk about a case study. I actually went on your website. There is you have so many, you've obviously with hundreds of clients, and you've actually published quite a few e-commerce related case studies. And that's kind of where you focus on. Is there any of note that you can either, outright call the brand out if you can talk about them and kind of the upside that happened by getting involved with 180 marketing? I feel warm and fuzzy to kind of understand, here's where the brand used to be. They understood that maybe their organic reach wasn't very good. Their share of search was poor. And then you implemented, one or more of these 4 buckets that you were talking about, technical and content and page and link building. I'm curious to see kind of like what happened on the other side by continuing to be involved with your company.
Yeah, I think a great case to just use it as an example. There's a website, sportsgearswag.com, and they sell custom jerseys for sports teams, custom apparel. If you have a basketball team, you always want to have matching jerseys. These Sports Gear Swag is going to make you some good custom jerseys and custom uniforms. So what's interesting, the way I approach case studies, and there's a lot of SEOs that are like, oh, I built links from this site and things skyrocketed, or I fixed this technical issue and things skyrocketed. Our approach is a little bit different. What we do is we know a whole bunch of things that typically have a positive outcome. It could be like 20 things, and maybe there's a bunch of technical SEO issues that we're going to fix. And they were on a custom platform. So yes, for them, there was a lot of technical SEO issues that we had to address. We also did a bunch of page optimization. We added content to a lot of their page descriptions. We actually did find some opportunities for blog posts, and we focused there. And we did a bunch of link building and content marketing. So it's always difficult to pinpoint that like this one thing had a more impact of another. Our approach is we know all these things in conjunction work together. We're going to apply this whole system to this one particular e-commerce site, and then we usually see a pretty good outcome. So what was it, kind of the one or two things? It's really difficult to say. I've been doing this for 15 years, and I have a theory on why that is, but really only Google's going to know why, what's going to move the needle. But what we do know is if you fix your technical SEO issues, that's going to rank better. If you have a keyword in the title tags, meta description, header tags, you're going to rank better. If you have a keyword in the content and you have good content that's a few hundred words and uses related keywords and provides value, that's going to rank better. If you have lots of backlinks from relevant websites that have decent authority, that's going to rank better. So we just throw the whole playbook at the website. And for Sports Gear Swag, they actually went from just 3,000 monthly visitors to about 70,000 monthly visitors in a little over a year.
Yeah, I can see it actually. I'm in Ahrefs right now. I threw the domain in there, and I'm backing up your live case study here. But it's interesting. So referring domains has skyrocketed for them, and even the last 3 months, there's been 248 new. And I think there's a flywheel effect that's happening now as they continue to produce content and having great product. Then people are more apt to talk about it and link to them. And there's some really high domain authority inbound links. The keywords are growing organically. The traffic has significant. You're right. It's been, even way back in early 2023, it was, 3,000 to 4,000. And now it's, once again, this hasn't direct access to their analytics, but it's generalizing it, close to 100K in traffic, but let's call it 75 for the sake of argument, high DR. So there's a lot of the great checks and balances are actually happening here. You can see the hockey stick growth up and to the right. I'm not tooting your own horn here. I'm looking live to see what's going on, because I think this is the competitive analysis that a lot of people like to do if they're going to hire an SEO agent, saying, okay, well, have you really done it? Oh, great. Well, let's take a look. And here's a live case study, not just what you've published, but I'm live looking to see what you've done. And I think it's pretty impressive that you've got some really great backlinks that are very contextually relevant to this particular company. And good on you guys.
Yes, Steve, if you want to see something interesting, I know you have Ahrefs open just like me right now, but if you check in the overview page, if you check that referring domains where you can see the organic traffic and the referring domains in the same chart, it's very highly correlated. Like as those links started coming in, traffic followed pretty soon after.
Yeah. This is amazing. Okay, so that's a great case study. So what do you think kind of the next steps? Because there's a lot of people that are listening right now that, I think we would agree that maybe for the most part, the current Shopify in its current format. I know there was some issues in the past of PDP pages resolving on multiple URLs and then having a kind of like a duplicate kind of content issues and things like that. And I think there was ways of manually no indexing certain pages. Shopify got quite smart over the years and has kind of cleaned up a lot of these collection and these kind of overview pages that still resolve to the same PDP. But let's assume that the technical SEO is reasonably solved. What do you believe kind of the next steps are? And then what sort of services do you offer? Is there a done for you service? Is there potentially just an educational component for the DIYers that are listening? I just want to think about what do you believe some of the next steps might be?
Yeah, so I'd say just to answer the first part of your question as far as like Shopify tips, again, your technical SEO is probably going to be pretty solid. You don't need to worry about going, if you read blog posts that talk about structured data and sitemaps and robots.txt, don't freak out. Shopify pretty much has you covered out of the box.
Yeah.
Sure, maybe there's some low-hanging fruit of adding some content to your pages, and maybe there's some subcategory pages that you don't even know you need. So if you're selling, if you're doing running shoes, Maybe people are searching for blue running shoes and you don't have a collection for it. Just because people can filter it doesn't mean it's, typically those kind of filtered pages where someone has to go in the sidebar and click the different colors or sizes or whatever it might be. Those pages typically aren't indexable by search engines. So what you'll want to do is create a collection page for every single type of keyword people are searching for. Maybe it's blue running shoes. Maybe it's, extra large running shoes. Whatever people are searching for, make sure you have a page to capture that search volume. But other than that, 9 times out of 10, when someone comes to me and they say, why am I ranking number 10 and my competitor's ranking number 2? 9 times out of 10, the answer is you just don't have enough backlinks to your collection page. So again, product reviews, link building, that will get you there. Now, as far as where we come in, if I'll be the first to say SEO is not the best choice for every single e-commerce brand. I'd say about 50% of the people that want to work with us, we unfortunately have to turn down because there's either A, just not enough people searching for their products, or B, we actually don't work with premium brands that have a product that's maybe 3 times more than average. Because what we found is if you have a premium product that's really expensive, maybe 3 times or 4 times what you can get on Amazon, even if we can get you to rank number 1 or number 2, if people, let's say maybe only 20% of the market's into like a premium product, what's going to happen is even if you're ranking number 1 or number 2, most people are going to bounce off your page, click on a competitor that's Amazon or Walmart or Target or someone who's way less expensive. And as Google sees this pattern, like we talked about earlier with click-through rates, if Google sees this pattern of people bouncing from your page and clicking your competitors, you're going to fly off page 1. So this is, SEO just doesn't really work as well for premium brands. So that's, one reason why we try to avoid those types of campaigns. But assuming a site, we do our due diligence. We'll say, okay, you have good search volume. Your products are priced reasonably. We're confident we can deliver a positive ROI. We roll out a custom plan. So we don't have any tiered approaches where, hey, you spend this much, you get package A, you spend this much, you get package B. SEO's custom. What your site needs is probably different from what your competitor needs. So we build a custom plan. We execute it. We're kind of a turnkey approach. So if we need content, we have writers that will create the content. If we need backlinks, we'll build those backlinks. If we need to fix a technical SEO issue, our developer can fix that issue. So it's kind of like a turnkey approach. We'll create the plan. We'll execute it. We are exploring some just like kind of high level consulting. So maybe you have writers, maybe you have developers, you just need someone to kind of point them in the right direction. That is something we're looking into, is just kind of have like, ongoing consulting to build a plan to kind of help people go in the right direction.
Yeah, no, I love that. Yeah, I love having this kind of like, I guess the 2-pronged approach. I think the consultative side is very interesting because there's going to be people that firmly planted in the mid-market and saying, hey, you know what, can you like do a full technical site audit for me and kind of understand kind of where I fit, and then maybe help me build a plan about what I can do to execute on it. I think that opens up some doors for you also, a few $1,000s and kind of and some kind of an audit of some sort, then that equals a document and some intelligence behind it and saying here's what the plan is, and then go ahead and execute the plan. Or part 2 of that potentially could be, well, here's how we can crawl, walk, run, so to speak. I think you do have a very holistic approach too, which I really love. I think having a full service kind of team approach, I think, is really interesting. You said you got copywriters and content and developers, and so you can do a lot of things kind of technically, and which I think is really important overall. And I think just the fact that you and the team have been involved so long in SEO, I think it's interesting to kind of have an audit first, but then getting the research and analyzing competitors and just understanding where you fit, and then coming up with a plan and then executing on that plan, I think is so interesting. I think it makes sense instead of like hodgepodging, duct taping together, think you're going to download an app in the Shopify app store. It's going to magically solve all your problems. That's really not the answer at all, unfortunately. You need to have these 4 buckets. I'm total in alignment of kind of what you guys do. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think that's probably the biggest thing that I wish every e-commerce store owner, knew and felt confident in is, what do you actually need to do to move the needle? Like, for some sites, maybe you're newer starting out, you just need more backlinks and that'll take you there. Or maybe you're a more established site. You've been mentioned in the press a lot. You have a lot of backlinks, but you have a custom platform with a bunch of technical SEO issues. Well, that site's going to want to focus on technical SEO. Or you have people that think they need to do all this blog posts, but that's not really going to do anything for them. So every site has different needs, and I always feel bad for these store owners that have spent years creating blog posts when they didn't really need any of them, or they spent, years with a developer fixing every small teeny technical SEO issue and they just didn't have enough backlinks. So at least knowing the path you're on and the direction you need to go can have a huge impact on your ROI when it comes to SEO.
Yeah, this is amazing. All right, so where should we send people that are listening right now? If someone says, hey, you know what, I agree that I don't want to miss the boat from a generative AI or an AI overview kind of party. I want to make sure that I'm thinking about that and executing on that. Or maybe I need an audit, or maybe I need to have someone take a look at my website and see if there's a sweet spot of kind of like, hey, can 180 marketing work with this particular business? I'm going to throw the baton back to you and say, like, what do you think kind of the next steps are for those listening? How should people get a hold of you?
Yeah, the best way, you can go to our website, just 180marketing.com, and that'll have a little bit more information as well as a contact form. We even have a link if you just want to book a meeting with us. So we can jump right in, or you can email me directly. Throw out my email. It's just Jeff, Jeff, at 180marketing.com. And, I never pitched anything out of the gates. First we want to see, is there enough SEO opportunity for your site to even justify an investment of SEO? And then we can go from there.
Yeah. This is amazing. I see you had Brand Fishkin actually on his show and Brian Dean. These are from Backlinko. So you've been in this space a while, and kudos to you. I thanks for coming on the show today. It's been, I'm on page 2.5 now, almost 3 pages now of notes that I've taken. I love this. This has been, like I said, just prior, I just had another fellow on talking about their AI visibility system. So it's a hot topic. AI in general is quite hot, but I think people really are trying to figure out a way with these rising ad costs and stuff like that. I think this is where SEO kind of fits into it. It's a long play, but there are some very specific buckets that need to be addressed, and it'll, continue down the journey of success and organic reach. So thanks, Jeff, for coming on the show and sharing, and I wish you continued success kind of in our space.
Awesome. Well, Steve, this has been a blast. Yeah. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, my pleasure. All right, have yourself a great afternoon. Well, that's it for today's episode. I'd like to thank you personally for being a loyal listener of eCommerce Fastlane. It's my hope that this podcast is offering you a ton of value through growth strategies, tactics, and exclusive insider tips on the best Shopify apps and marketing platforms, all with my personal goal to help you build, manage, grow, and scale a successful and thriving company powered by Shopify. Thanks for investing some time today and listening to the show. I'm so proud and excited that you have a growth mindset and are a constant learner. I truly appreciate you and your entrepreneurial journey. Enjoy the rest of the week and keep thriving with Shopify.